Well, Secretary Rubio, the World Food Program estimates that 8,000 children die from hunger every day. Until last Friday, over 123,000 rough boxes were purchased for Sudan, but were sitting in Rhode Island in a warehouse because of State Department delays. So my question for you is, are you doing everything you can to keep starving children from dying?
There was no State Department delays to that being deployed. There may have been other delays, but it wasn't State Department.
Folks, you have got to see this. We have a freshman Democrat congressman trying to pull a fast one on Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And honestly, it backfired. We're talking props, we're talking poster boards, we're talking pure political theater. Representative Amo thought he had a gotcha moment about humanitarian aid, but he forgot one huge detail. Real life isn't a press release. Rubio's response? Absolute class and cold hard facts. You don't want to miss this takedown. Let's get into it.
Secretary Rubio, do you know what this is?
I'm sorry, my Lasix is not as good as it
That's
used
all
to
right,
be.
I'll explain. This is a ready-to-use therapeutic food, also known as a RUF. It's produced in the United States by Adesia Nutrition in Rhode Island and Manna Nutrition in Georgia from American-grown farm products. A single box that I have right here of this miracle product can save a child from dying of severe acute malnutrition in only 6 to 10 weeks. Now, since January, you have promised over and over again that foreign aid freezes will not include life-saving assistance. RUF save the lives of children who are starving around the world. Do you agree that this product is life-saving aid?
It can be, yes.
Well, Secretary Rubio, the World Food Program estimates that 8,000 children die from hunger every day. Until last Friday, over 123,000 RUF boxes were purchased for Sudan, but were sitting in Rhode Island in a warehouse because of State Department delays. So my question for you is, are you doing everything you can to keep starving children from dying?
There was no State Department delays to that being deployed. There may have been other delays, but it wasn't State Department.
There were State Department delays. And it is clear that you have not done everything you can do to keep these kids from starving, because there are another 185,000 boxes of RUFs that the U.S. government and taxpayers have already paid for sitting in that same warehouse, all because the State Department doesn't have a plan, doesn't have its stuff together to get this rolling. So I can think of several countries where this aid is desperately needed, where these boxes of RUFs could save hundreds of thousands of children's lives. And these delays have real consequences, not just for starving children, but also jobs at home. I talked to the CEO of Adesia, who said they had to lay off 10% of their team due to the lack of payments from the U.S. government and a lack of clarity in March. So Secretary Rubio, will you commit to making decisions needed to move the remaining 185,000 boxes of RUFs to countries that need them by the end of this week?
Well, I'd be interested to learn what those impediments are.
Well, we've been talking about this for a while. I've sent you letters since January.
But there's no impediment on our end to distributing that.
There are impediments. I'm speaking directly to the
Sudan
source.
is a war zone.
Secretary,
I mean,
I'm reclaiming my time. This exists as a problem, and you have not acted.
That's false.
And maybe it's the case that you have too many jobs, because I know it's the case. It must be a lot to be the National Security Advisor, the National Archivist, or the head of USAID. That's a lot. I understand a lot of footballs. You're a football player. That's a lot of balls to catch. But the issue here is we have children who are dying. So will you commit to continuing to fund the production, transportation, and distribution of these domestically produced life-saving products to save starving children around the world?
They're approved now.
They are not moving. I just told you about 185,000 boxes in Rhode Island. I live there.
And you need to figure out why they're not moving, because it isn't an impediment from us.
Sir, you need to figure out. That's actually your job, sir.
No, it's no impediment from the State Department.
Well, Mr. Secretary, it seems like you will not make a commitment.
Sir,
it seems like you refuse to make a
commitment. We do more of that than anybody in the world, and we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to do food aid. We're going to do more food aid than any country on the planet times 10.
Well, that's a lot of talk. But I believe
those are numbers.
Seeing is believing, and there is not to be seen.
Those are numbers. Those are facts. We do more foreign aid.
Well, I've got numbers. I've got 185,000 boxes that aren't moving.
So, but the State Department doesn't move boxes.
I'm going to do you a little favor.
We authorize them.
Mr. Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time, sir. I'm going to do you a favor.
To move. Well, you ask questions you don't let anybody answer. I'm telling you, they're allowed to move.
And I have a question for you, and you're compelled to answer. Why don't you take 10 seconds now to turn to your staff and say, let's get this fixed?
My staff knows that this has been fixed.
It hasn't been fixed.
On the State Department
side. Well, then you have not proven that to me. If the people who are affected both here domestically and around the world, are not receiving this life-saving product.
They are receiving it.
Look, you staked your career in the Senate on supporting humanitarian aid, but now you won't make a commitment, or you're saying things have been done that haven't been done.
Commitment.
You've made a commitment?
We do more food aid than anybody in the world, and we're doing more today than anybody in the world.
Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time. You are speaking in generalities. I'm talking about specifics.
I'm speaking in specifics. We do more than anybody in the world, and we're doing more than anybody in the world right now at this very moment.
That's hyperbole, sir, because this has been disrupted because of your freezing of aid.
Who does more food aid than the United States?
Sir, why are you asking me questions? My job is to ask you questions.
Well, you're the one that's claiming that
Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time. Secretary, I'm reclaiming my client. This is why I'm introducing the Rubio Act. So you focus on the one job that the Senate gave you to serve as our Secretary of State because you are clearly distracted, okay? After the last few months, I understand why President Trump has such colorful nicknames for you. You're obedient. You're following the rules. You will do anything the president tells you to do without regard for the law, the Constitution, America's security, or standing as a leader in the world. Unlike you, I do not fear crossing Donald Trump. I refuse to give up on these children. I will be calling you once a week until you take action to fund RUF and actually prove that you're doing this job to make sure you know how many children have died on your watch. Will you pick up my call?
No children are dying on our watch.
Will you pick up my call, sir?
Pick up your call?
When I call you to check in on your progress.
Our progress has already been made. We already do more than anybody in the world.
Recognized.
No, but he's made some strong accusations here. We're doing more than anybody in the world. That food is being distributed now, and he knows that.
There is a lot to unpack here, but let's start with the obvious. Whenever a politician walks into a hearing holding a prop, in this case that little packet of food, and has a giant poster board set up behind them, you know you're not watching an inquiry. You're watching an audition tape. You're watching theater. Representative Amo came in hot, trying to paint Secretary Rubio as this villain who is personally stopping starving kids from eating. He's waving that packet around, talking about warehouses in Rhode Island, and trying to make it sound like the State Department is just forgetting to ship the boxes, like they lost the tracking number. Here is where Rubio absolutely dismantled that narrative, and he did it with simple logic. The reality of war zones. Amo is shouting about boxes sitting in a warehouse. Rubio correctly points out there are no State Department delays. Why? Because Sudan is an active war zone. This is what people in Washington often forget. You cannot just Amazon Prime food into the middle of a civil war. Rubio is trying to explain that if you just dump aid without a secure logistical plan, it gets stolen by warlords or the trucks get blown up. Blaming the Secretary of State for the fact that Sudan is dangerous is absurd. It's a logistical nightmare, not a bureaucratic one. The pivot to personal attacks. Did you notice what happened when Amo realized the logistics argument wasn't sticking? He pivoted immediately. He went from talking about starving children to attacking Rubio's resume. Oh, you're the national archivist. You're the national security advisor. Then he brings up Trump's old nicknames for Rubio. That is the moment Amo lost the argument. When you have to resort to bringing up campaign nicknames from 8 years ago in a foreign affairs hearing, you don't have a policy critique, you have a grudge. It was petty, and honestly, it looked desperate. The Rubio Act stunt. Then he threatens to introduce the Rubio Act to force him to do his job. Come on, this is grandstanding 101. Rubio is sitting there, probably on hour 4 of testimony, handling global crises, and he has to listen to a lecture about how he's distracted. I loved Rubio's closing line. He said, "We do more food aid than any country on the planet times 10. And he's right. The United States funds the vast majority of this stuff. For a congressman to sit there and lecture the guy running the department that literally feeds the world about not caring, it's insulting. Look, oversight is important. Congress should ask questions. But there is a difference between asking, how do we solve the logistics in Sudan, and shouting, will you pick up my phone call, for a viral clip. Rubio stayed calm, stuck to the facts about the war zone, and didn't let the theatrics rattle him. That is the difference between a seasoned statesman and someone looking for likes on Twitter. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Was this a valid critique by Amo? Or just a show for the cameras? I know where I stand. Thanks for watching.